exists a land turning into a real-life horror story. The Everglades was once a vast paradise for wildlife, but now it's submerged in silence as giant invasive pythons and a mysterious invisible creature are secretly altering all the rules of nature. Humans deployed traps, robots, and even professional snake hunting teams, but all were powerless. Then, Florida shocked the world by announcing the strangest solution: releasing more snakes to save their own nature. The Everglades, a $31.5 billion river of grass and a former wildlife paradise. The Everglades is not a dirty, shallow swamp as many imagine. It is a massive, slow-moving river of grass flowing across over 1.5 million acres. A rare subtropical ecosystem remaining in the United States. Every day, it operates like a living machine, with water seeping through each blade of grass and forest, nourishing countless birds, mammals, and reptiles. From above, the Everglades looks like an endless green carpet, drifting gently but carrying the vitality of an entire region. Its value cannot be measured by beauty alone. Experts estimate this ecosystem contributes over $31.5 billion annually. That number comes from its ability to control floods, filter water, replenish groundwater, and provide clean water for millions in South Florida. The Everglades is not just scenery, it's a green lung filtering air, a water pillar sustaining life, and a shield protecting all of South Florida from flooding and drought. Before the Burmese python appeared, this place was literally a wildlife paradise. Each morning, flocks of birds, ibises, and herons flew so densely they through the sun. Sometimes they formed moving clouds, shifting rhythmically across the sky. Below, raccoons, opossums, and marsh rabbits ran among the tall grasses, while bobcats and foxes stealthily sought at the edges of tree hammocks and mounds rising from the sea of grass. It was a perfectly functioning ecosystem, with each species playing a clear role in the web of life. No one ever imagined that paradise could collapse so quickly. Scientists who worked for decades in the Everglades still recall how it was once so noisy they couldn't hear the rustling leaves. And they were the first to sense the unusual silence descending like a warning. Collapsed from a major disaster, it wasn't. Nor submerged by a historic flood. Everything began much more quietly. With two events no one noticed: a fierce hurricane and a $10 pet released into the wild. The Burmese python, from a $10 pet to an ecological bomb. In 1992, South Florida experienced a nightmare named Andrew. This wasn't an ordinary storm, but a Category 5 hurricane with winds over 260 kilometers per hour. Strong enough to snap steel power poles and smash houses like paper toys. When the sky cleared over Miami and the suburbs, residents were left in ruins. Yet amid the chaos, there was one loss no one paid attention to at the time. A reptile breeding facility was torn open, walls vanished, and numerous dangerous creatures escaped into the wild. Among them were Burmese pythons, the giant invasive species from Southeast Asia. No one knows exactly how many pythons escaped, a few, dozens, or hundreds. Breeding records were lost, and staff lost contact after the storm. All that remains is a suspicion that this was the moment it all began, but it was only the first wave. The second wave appeared much more quietly and came from 9 people. In the 1980s and 1990s, Burmese pythons became a cool, cheap, exotic pet anyone could buy. For just $10, you could bring home a small, cute snake that fit in your palm. Many kept it as a trendy pet, not realizing they'd bought a biological time bomb. Because just a few years later, that tiny snake turned into a monster over 3 meters long, weighing over 20 kilograms, and it kept growing. Some adults can reach over 6 meters and 90 kilograms, strong enough to take down a mature deer and strangle it in minutes. When owners realized they were living with an apex predator in their living room, panic set in. T afford to keep it, lacked space, didn't. The solution many of them came up with was undoubtedly the worst possible outcome.
Driving to the edge of the Everglades and releasing the snake back in nature.
In their eyes, it was a humane act. But in reality,
it will fully depend on an ecological bomb with destructive effects lasting decades.
Some researchers even believe the truth is more frightening.
According to them, Hurricane Andrew didn't just destroy a small breeding facility, but may have collapsed a large-scale python production site, sending thousands of individuals into the marshes at once.
That's true, the Everglades wasn't. Sadly, the Everglades was the perfect paradise for that explosion to occur.
Warm temperatures year-round, high humidity, and vast shallow waters create an ideal environment for pythons to thrive.
Prey is so abundant that it's like an endless buffet.
Raccoons, marsh rabbits, opossums.
Worse yet, native animals had never faced such a predator. So they almost have no defensive instincts.
Burmese pythons already possess superpowers that few species have. They camouflage perfectly in tall grass, hold their breath underwater for over 30 minutes, and especially have heat-sensing pits along their jaw, hoping to attack warm-blooded animals. With each female capable of laying up to 100 eggs per season, the python population explodes. Today, experts estimate there are between 100,000 to 300,000 pythons roaming throughout South Florida. A paradise once bustling with life is gradually becoming where this giant invasive python truly becomes the host.
Silent paradise, a 99% collapse of mammals. After Burmese pythons took root in the Everglades, the initial changes occurred so quietly that no one noticed. But by 2012, a groundbreaking study shocked scientists.
In the most severely affected areas, raccoon populations had declined by 99.3%. Opossums decreased by 98.9%, wildcats by 87.5%. These numbers sound like statistical errors, but they're not.
This is near total disappearance, not 10%. Not 50%, but 99%. That's more alarming is that these numbers aren't. Biologists who spent their entire careers tracking the Everglades still recall memories of a time when just driving at night for a few minutes required stopping. Because raccoons crossed the road, turtles slowly crawled, or small animals scrambled in the headlights.
Back then, the Everglades was so vibrant that the space was always filled with calls, winged flaps, and the rustling of small animals in the bushes. But today, that scene seems to belong to another planet. They say there are trips spanning dozens of kilometers, lasting many consecutive days without encountering a single small animal.
No more raccoons by the roadside, no more marsh rabbits, no more glittering eyes in the dark when lights sweep through the bushes. Only silence, a heavy silence, to the point where researchers themselves sometimes stop just to listen and wonder. Am I standing in paradise or in a dead world?
The Everglades was once a symphony of life, with hundreds of species blending together, forming an endless chain of sounds. But that chain of sounds has gone silent, and when the sounds disappear, the ecosystem also shakes. The reason is that small animals aren't simply residents of the swamp.
They are the foundation of the entire food web. Raccoons, marsh rabbits, opossums, and many other small animals are the missing links that used to feed native snakes. bobcats, predatory birds, and even larger carnivores. When a foundational link disappears, the entire food chain collapses, and that void is filled by an uncontrollable creature, the Burmese python.
With its strength, size, and terrifying reproductive ability, it becomes the new apex predator of the Everglades.
There's no natural opponent strong enough to restrain it, no animal fast or smart enough to escape it.
And no agency or technology can keep up with its expansion rate. Florida recognized the problem, but too late, when the ecosystem had already broken or the last sounds disappeared. When the pythons had dominated the swamp like new overlords, the authorities finally began to act. But the first measures they introduced made many experts shake their heads, because instead of a systematic scientific strategy,
what the government did next was no different from a cheap reality TV show.
Python hunting reality shows in the 0.3% solution.
When the numbers about mammal disappearance became too clear, Florida was forced to respond.
And their first response didn't resemble an ecological strategy, but rather an outdoor festival mixed with some recklessness.
In 2013, authorities announced a shocking event, the Florida Python Challenge. Anyone could participate, from professional hunters to adventure enthusiasts, even those who had never touched a snake. Just having the courage to enter the Everglades swamps at night qualified you.
To attract participants, the government offered extremely attractive prizes. $10,000 for the person who caught the most pythons, media attention immediately focused.
Groups of YouTubers, reporters, and semi-professional snake enthusiasts flocked to Florida. Photos of the winners holding up long pythons became symbols of determination.
The atmosphere was so intense that many mistakenly believed the ecological crisis had found a solution. But when the numbers were announced, the excitement quickly cooled down.
In the first year, all participants caught only 195 pythons. By 2024, despite more hunters and greater experience,
the record number was only 294 pythons. Compared to the minimum estimated 100,000 pythons, 294 represents about 0.3%, and the actual number is close to 300,000.
That effort is almost meaningless, like bailing out the ocean with a teaspoon during a flood.
Seeing the competition yield no results, officials shifted to a professionalization. Starting in 2017, they hired professional python hunting teams, paying them hourly to patrol day and night.
These were not amateurs, they were experienced hunters who knew every dam and every patch of tall grass in the swamp.
At first glance, the results were impressive. Over 23,000 pythons were removed from the wild.
But compared to the estimated total population, that number might only account for about 5%. A massive effort that only scratches the surface of the problem. Not stopping there, Florida entered a high-tech warfare phase. Drones equipped with thermal cameras were deployed, with the hope of detecting pythons from the air. But the Everglades is a hot area. Hot ground, hot water, hot plants, and pythons are cold-blooded. When their body heat blends with the environment, they look no different from a warm rock on thermal cameras.
The expensive drone project quickly failed. The engineering team then experimented with heat-emitting, sound-producing rabbit robots, but pythons are ambush predators. They don't chase noisy prey but wait for real prey to pass by accidentally.
The robots were ignored like harmless toys. The boldest idea was using Judas snakes. Male pythons were fitted with tracking devices to lead hunters to breeding females.
This project was somewhat successful, hoping to catch a few giant females, but it was too slow, too expensive, and not scalable.
Then rumors began to spread.
Many hunter-set pythons seemed to avoid their usual trails, suspiciously evading traps.
One Judas snake led researchers in circles for weeks, as if aware it was being tracked. This made people wonder,
When a species has no natural predators and dominates a territory, can it develop a new level of intelligence?
After billions of dollars, drones, robots, paid hunting teams, and a series of failed experiments, Florida had to face a cold truth.
In this war, humans are losing.
The invisible monster. Snake lung parasites from Asia. If pythons are the visible invaders causing chaos in the Everglades, the second enemy is even more frightening because no one can see it. While managers were busy dealing with python infestations, a tiny creature quietly slipped into the ecosystem, arriving with these invaders from halfway around the world. It is the snake lungworm, a parasite native to Asia, where pythons have coexisted with it for thousands of years. The first scene that stunned scientists appeared when they examined native Florida snakes, gators, water snakes, and small ribbon snakes, found weak and wheezing as if drowning. When dissected, they saw an unforgettable sight. The lungs and air sacs of native snakes were dotted white by dozens, even hundreds, of tiny worms living inside. Some individuals were so weak that worms began to crawl out of their mouths as they tried to breathe. But what sent shivers was the simplicity of this creature's life cycle. An infected python defecates worm eggs into the swamp. Insects and other small animals eat the feces, and the eggs hatch inside them. Frogs and lizards eat the infected insects, and when a native snake accidentally eats that prey, the larvae bypass the stomach, move straight to the lungs, attach to soft tissue, and start feeding. They cause inflammation, damage, and bleeding, weakening the snake until it can't hunt and dies slowly, suffocating in its own body. If pythons are the first wave, wiping out almost all small mammals in the Everglades, the lungworm is the second wave, targeting native reptiles, especially snakes. Worse, it didn't stop in the Everglades. Recent surveys show at least 18 native Florida snake species are infected, with the spread extending across multiple counties, reaching Jacksonville and even into the northwestern panhandle. The scariest part is that the lungworm no longer needs pythons to survive. It has jumped to native hosts, rooted in Florida snakes, and now spreads from snake to snake. In other words, even if pythons disappeared tomorrow, this invisible monster would remain, continuing to expand its territory. And then came the biggest question. If it could jump from Asian pythons to North American snakes in just decades, could it jump to mammals, to pets, to humans? Scientists officially rate the risk as low, but low never means impossible, because they once believed the lungworm couldn't infect native snakes until it did. Imagine a wild dog eating an infected frog, or a hunter handling an infected snake with bare hands. Those scenarios are no longer just imagination. In that darkness, there is still a small glimmer of hope. Florida's native pit vipers appear to have remarkably high resistance to parasites, though no one knows exactly why. It could be due to a uniquely evolved immune system, genetic traits, or their diet. Some researchers even question whether the pit viper's blood might contain clues to developing new anti-parasitic drugs. But regardless of any lingering hopes, the reality remains unchanged. The Everglades now faces more than just pythons. The conflict has expanded beyond human control. This is no longer just a battle between humans and pythons, but a conflict between the entire ecosystem and an invisible enemy quietly rewriting nature's rules. The plan was mocked. Florida releases more snakes. As the hopeless war against pythons dragged on, Florida unexpectedly announced a plan that sounded like a joke, releasing hundreds more snakes into the wild to solve the invasion. As soon as this news broke, social media exploded. Mocking comments appeared everywhere. Does Florida not have enough snakes? Solving the snake problem with snakes, then what will solve the second snake? Memes spread, and media outlets everywhere simultaneously criticized this decision as further evidence of Florida's chaos. To reinforce the irony, people immediately brought up past disaster lessons, like when Australia released cane toads to destroy agricultural pests. The result was that the toads not only ignored the beetles but multiplied into billions of toxic individuals, devastating native wildlife to this day. Or in Hawaii, where mongooses were released to control rats in sugarcane fields. The problem was that rats are nocturnal, while mongooses are diurnal, meaning the two species hardly ever meet. The hungry mongooses turned to native birds, causing many species to go extinct. With such disastrous precedents, Florida's announcement to release snakes to control snakes was immediately seen as a joke of the century. Tino is that the snake Florida is releasing ISN.
This is the longest non-venomous snake in North America, capable of reaching nearly 2.7 meters. Its body has a glossy blue-black sheen, shimmering like blue steel in sunlight, while underneath it sports a vibrant orange-red hue like glowing antlers.
Not only beautiful, the indigo snake possesses such special hunting abilities that biologists call it the king of the forest. It preys on other snakes, swallowing prey alive with its powerful jaws, and is particularly immune to the venom of North American pit vipers. From rattlesnakes, cottonmouths, to copperheads, the indigo snake can handle them all neatly. But if the indigo snake was once so powerful, why did it disappear? The answer lies in its habitat. This species depends on ancient longleaf pine forests, an ecosystem spanning nearly 90 million acres. When these forests were cleared for timber, agriculture, and urban development, 97% of the original area vanished. And with the forests disappeared the gopher tortoise, the burrowing species that indigo snakes completely depend on for shelter and survival.
During the Great Depression, poor people often dug up tortoises to eat and inadvertently killed the indigo snakes sharing their burrows. From then on, the indigo snake population plummeted uncontrollably.
In 1978, it was officially listed as a threatened species and nearly vanished from Alabama and North Florida. Therefore, Florida's bold plan is not actually about releasing a new invasive species, but restoring a native apex predator that once maintained ecosystem balance. In reality, this is a conservation project prepared for many years, not a reckless, impulsive idea. However, public concern is not unfounded. People wonder, what if this plan fails? If indigo snakes eat all the pythons, what will they eat next in a severely disrupted ecosystem? Could releasing another apex predator into the wild
inadvertently cause another ecological disaster?
Scientists affirm they have studied carefully, but unfortunately, that's the same thing experts said before releasing mongooses.
Amid the context where the Everglades seemed completely dominated by pythons, an unexpected event made biologists reconsider. A python weighing about 23 kilograms was fitted with a GPS device named Loki as part of a reproductive tracking program.
Every few days, the research team would check its location, but one December morning, they were stunned to find Loki's entire body lying motionless on the grass. Its head had been chewed up and cleverly dragged under a layer of pine needles.
The first thing they wondered was, what species is small enough yet daring enough to confront such a large predator?
Alligators can, but the evidence didn't match. Florida panthers are extremely rare. A subsequent camera trap survey revealed the culprit, and it shocked everyone. A native bobcat weighing less than 11 kilograms. This is the first time in Everglades research history that a bobcat has been recorded taking down and eating an adult python. For nearly 2 decades, pythons have been seen as the top predators, something all native species must avoid. But this time, the balance shifted. A smaller, lighter species, seemingly at a disadvantage, found a way to eliminate a meter-long python. And Loki was just the beginning. Subsequent reports showed alligators also began ambushing and eating smaller pythons. The Florida panther, one of North America's rarest big cats, was also caught on camera confronting a python directly. Researchers believe these might just be rare cases, but they could also signal a larger trend: native animals are learning. Just instinctual, sometimes it. One bobcat succeeds experimentally, others may learn. One alligator ambushes at the right moment. Juveniles may see it as an effective tactic.
Nature always finds a way to adapt, and sometimes that adaptation happens faster than humans expect.
Yet as beautiful as that hope is, it's still not enough to reverse the situation. For every python taken down by alligators or bobcats, thousands more are hatching out there, hiding in tall grass, continuing to dominate the swamps. As one biologist said, the home team scored an honorable goal, but the overall score still leans heavily toward the pythons. The return of the emperor and lessons for the future. While the Everglades was in chaos, an unexpected hopeful signal appeared in North Florida, at the Ecological Bluff and Ravines Preserve, once the homeland of the eastern indigo snake.
Scientists have persistently carried out a program to restore this key predator species for many years.
Each year, they release captive bred indigo snakes, all tagged for tracking. Then in the fall of 2023, the camera trap unexpectedly captured a game-changing image. 2 completely wild juvenile indigo snakes, one without a tag, proving it was born naturally without any human assistance. This isn't just a sign of survival, but true revival. From 2024 to 2025, many new individuals continued to be discovered. A 1.8-meter-long male snake was recorded moving vigorously through dense brush.
A total of 19 individuals from previous releases are still healthy, showing that the indigo snake population is gradually stabilizing independently.
But the foundation of the revival did not start with the snakes, but with the land and the forest.
The longleaf pine forest, the original habitat of the indigo snake, has been restored.
Gopher tortoises and their burrow systems, where indigo snakes shelter and reproduce, have been protected.
When the land and forest of the tortoises were restored, the indigo snakes also.
Researchers have drawn an important conclusion. The solution lies not in drones or robots, but in returning the stage to nature.
However, the reality remains harsh. Indigo snakes are reviving in the north, while Burmese pythons still dominate the southern Everglades. These two species have never met, and there has been no snake-on-snake battle as sensationalized by the media. Meanwhile, the lung fungus continues to spread, and Burmese pythons still reproduce uncontrollably. The future from here becomes unpredictable. The indigo snake territory may gradually expand southward, while Burmese pythons home.
The lung fungus spreads in its own directions, and the day will come when all 3 forces meet. What will happen when indigo snakes encounter Burmese pythons? Can a snake-eating species stand up to the giant monster that has collapsed an entire ecosystem? And more importantly, if the lung fungus finds a way to infect indigo snakes, are humans unintentionally restoring a native species, only to push it into greater danger? The answer remains open.
The Everglades is no longer just a story about a major invasive species,
but also a picture of how nature self-regulates and defends itself. Along with the consequences of past human mistakes,